Shalom, John.
Shalom, Judith.
We're back together again to give an overview of the parashah for this week. And the parashah for this week is Tetzaveh, you shall command. And it's taken from Exodus 27th chapter, 20th verse to the 30th chapter, the 10th verse. And as we were talking on Shabbat for the last parashah, which was called... Now, what I'm going to get for the parashah for last week, it's not Bishlag, not Mishpatim. I'm going to think of it in a minute. Oh, John, you can help us out here. Oh, yes, Teruma.
Teruma, yeah.
Contributions. I don't know why I forgot that. But anyway, the contributions were about the temple, Beit HaMikdash, and as we pointed out in a whole overview of the situation, is we're talking about God wanting to make a place so that he can dwell with his people. And as we as believers in Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, know that God wants to be with his people. So in this instance, he's giving specific instructions of how he wants things set up.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, it's very interesting that how things are being set up now is he's giving instructions on how the priest should dress. In fact, he spends, I understand, about 70 verses telling about the dress the priest should wear, both the regular priest and the high priest. In fact, the regular priests have 4 sets of garments, and the high priest has 8 sets of garments. Now, we know that God is not all that concerned about the external, so you makes you wonder why there's so much emphasis, there's so many verses on the external. There was an expression we used when I was growing up, the dress makes the man. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was the expression. I had to make some notes here because this one is very in-depth and I don't want to take too much time. But primarily, anything that is sacred and holy and special is covered. The Torah was covered by the ark. The ark was covered, had a lid. The ark itself was also covered by the curtains. And in fact, something very interesting, when Adam and Eve fell, they had a covering.
A covering, exactly.
So this covering has a lot of complexities, and but anything holy, special, sacred, we cover. Some have even said, sexual organs are covered because they're special and holy. I've got to take a look at my little cheat sheet here because it's so complex here. But what is happening here, the high priests are being distinguished in their role and in their action as to what they're doing. So it's not that necessarily the clothes made the priest, but he was distinguishing himself among all the other people based on the way he dressed. So here we're talking about dress and the significance of it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Well, and now that you said that, I'd like to point out something, and I did note that in some of my notes for things to go back and study for the Shabbat. And I made a list of things that they specifically were talking about. They started out talking about making the oil, Shemen Zayit, for the continual lights, the lamps, and the priest's clothing. The ephod was one thing that I mentioned. And also that what God did, because I think we were talking about this on Shabbat, or maybe the last overview, how did Moses remember all these things? And God, I didn't note the verse, but it says, God endowed skillful people with the spirit of wisdom in order to make the garments. And in verse 29-45 of Exodus, he's doing all of this. And I love, again, as I pointed out in our introduction, he's doing all this because he says, I will dwell among the sons of Israel and will be their God. So this is in preparation for the King of the universe to come. And imagine how much more so you would prepare for the King of the universe, more than you would prepare for an earthly king. They do all kinds of things when any king or queen comes to visit a province. And that's what's going to happen. The King of the universe is coming. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just that as far as external dress is concerned, that God is concerned about the inside, concerned about the heart. But he also wants us, or the high priest and the priest, to distinguish themselves. And he does that by dress. And actually, dress says a lot about us and could say a lot about your mental health as well. Mm-hmm. But here, God is displaying his concern for the external. And perhaps later on in our study, we'll go to the internal.
Okay. One other thing I'd like to add as part of the study, the Hebrews, this is from the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, in Hebrews 13th chapter, verses 10 through 15. I won't read all of them, but it talks about Jesus or Yeshua being the temple of God. And in verse 10 it says, we have an altar whereof they have no right to eat, which serve the tabernacle. And in verse 12 it says, wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Let us go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. For here have we no continuing city, but we seek one to come. By him therefore let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually, that is, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name.
You were a little long there.
I was a little long, but I wanted to bring that out.
All right.
I'll be extra long for Shabbat.
Okay, very nice.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else, John?
No?
We've enjoyed giving you this overview,
Hope to see you again.
and we hope to see you for Shabbat, for Tetzaveh, for the parashah for this week. Thank you for joining us.